What's going on YouTube? So one of the hottest segments for EV entries is full-size trucks, and Chevy is ready to jump in.
And today we're with probably one of the most important entries, the all-new 2024 Chevy Silverado EV, which is ready to take on the likes of F-150 Lightning.
And we want to know, not just is this a great electric truck, but is this a great truck, period? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now let's kick things off here with the exterior design. Now, as soon as you take a look at this Silverado EV, it will be very apparent to you this is not your normal Silverado. I think it should be said that this does not have any relation to the traditional Silverado at all. It's not modified. This is a purpose-built, totally new vehicle for the Chevy lineup. And because of that, you do get totally different styling. So, taking a look up here at the front, of course, being an EV means that you can have most of your front end sealed off, and then indeed it is that way on this new RST trim level, which is the top end model of the Silverado EV lineup. We do still have ventilation though down here on our lower fascia. And in terms of ground clearance, since we have the RST, we have the adaptive air suspension. One of the things that can do is actually raise and lower this 2 inches, so you can get that additional ground clearance on this model. Now let's talk about lighting. That's another element that's a big deviation from the traditional Silverado. So as you can see, you have this really cool light bar that's going to run all the way across the front. The Chevy logo is also going to be illuminated. And then in terms of the lights themselves, they do have some cool tricks. So we got the dynamic turn signal indicators. There's also entry and exit animations that run through the entire light bar. And then we have projector LED headlights, no fog lights though. Now, as we walk around to the rear, you continue to get a look that is definitely unique to this EV version of the Silverado. And honestly, it kind of reminds us a little bit of the old Avalanche that they used to have.
Supersized.
Except bigger.
All right, so as far as rear design touches, blacked out Chevy bow tie. We also have a blue E in our Silverado branding, and Drew's hopping inside so we can check out the taillight elements. That's something we do in all of our Car Confections reviews to see if they're all LED. We do have an LED brake light portion, LED turn signal, and LED reverse light. So all 3 elements are LED. Now that noise you're hearing is actually the tone that it's making when you're in reverse. And then as we head down to this lower bumper area, all of this is body color. You're probably very curious about towing. The Silverado EV can tow up to 10,000 pounds, which is a very good figure.
And now let's talk a little bit about the wheels. Now, holy crap, these are some big wheels. These are 24-inch alloys on this RST trim level. That sounded huge, and I have to say, seeing it in person, they definitely look huge. But, you know, with a body this big, it definitely adds to the stylish appeal of this model. Now, obviously, there's going to be smaller options on your lower trim, such as the WT, the work truck. And Chevy is also going to be adding more trims as time goes on, by the way. So even though you just have those 2 available right now, the lineup is going to flesh out as in the next year or so goes on. Now, I also do want to mention that this RST comes with a rear wheel steering as well. And let's rise up here to our mirrors. These, of course, are going to be fully loaded on this luxury truck. So we've got auto dimming, we have power folding, we have heating, and blind spot monitoring.
Now, it's a truck after all, so it's not just about towing. Let's also check out the bed. Now, I have some really good things to talk about here. First of all, I do want to point out it's a 5-foot, 11-inch bed, so it's a little bit different than a full-size gas Silverado, for instance, actually a little bit longer. But let's go ahead and talk about the features. So you can push this button. That's going to release the tailgate normally. However, I do want to point out we do have the multi-flex tailgate, so that's going to allow us to have the 6 different modes that we can use for different working needs and stuff like that. Let me open it up again. As you can see, look at that bed. It is a quite large bed here in person, and you know, it's not just the size that's cool, because there's quite a few features that Chevy is including here. So one of those is called the midgate. So if you notice right up there at the very end towards the rear seats, that it looks a little different, and that's because that actually will open up and allow you to continuously have an object up to 10 foot, 10 inches through the cabin of the vehicle and all the way through the bed. So that allows you to haul stuff like canoes, those types of things. And then it's especially useful if you pop this up, and this keeps it from, you know, sliding backwards. So I really like that. That's a unique feature that you're not going to get on a traditional gas Silverado or any other pickup on the market besides for the Sierra EV, of course. Now, I also want to point out we have, of course, your typical handles and stuff to get into the bed and make that pretty easy. And we have these power outlets over here that allows for up to 10.2 kilowatts of power to flow out of the Silverado EV into something like a house or to power different electronics, depending on what you're going to need. I also want to point out that you have these nice assist steps here on the side to make getting in easy. Now, I don't know if the camera will do it justice, but this Silverado EV is massive. To be exact, it's 233.1 inches long. So standing here in person, it just looks absolutely ginormous, and I don't think it's going to fit in really any average size garage because this is the only configuration you can get the Silverado EV in. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned, I want to talk about this because Chevy is giving you all of your safety systems as standard equipment. However, the thing I really want to talk about is Super Cruise. So Super Cruise is standard on this RST trim level. That allows for hands-free highway driving and on some secondary roads. But the thing worth mentioning is the fact that this also works while towing and can still do stuff like auto lane change, which is the only truck on the market that offers that. But guys, there's a really cool cabin waiting for you, so let's go ahead and dive into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, now let's go ahead and move to the interior. First, we'll take a look at the key fob. This is one of the more conventional elements of this truck because we do have that typical Chevy key fob. You have the ability to remote start as well as open your front and drop the tailgate from this key fob. Getting inside the truck, there's not a sensor behind the handle, so you just press that silver button there that will unlock the door and fold the mirrors outward. All right, now let's go ahead and check out the interior. Now, you shouldn't be surprised at this point the fact that the interior is completely different from that conventional ICE Silverado. And that's gonna have some good elements and some not as good elements, and we'll get into that in just a second. But first, let's talk about the seats. So as you can see, with the RST version, we are going to get a leather seat. We have very unique stitching and piping details to add splashes of color to the overall black seating, and we do have perforation through the center part. Now over here, we've got 12-way power adjusting seats with 4-way lumbar support. I do want to point out massaging is not available on this. You can get that on the F-150 Lightning, but we do have our memory seats located right there on the door trim. Let's go ahead and climb inside the interior though so we can get into all the details. So the first thing I want to do is take a look at the overall cabin materials. So we'll start out with our door trim. We've got a leatherette material that runs through here with those same stitching details. RST is actually embroidered into this material itself. Along the top, we have a kind of rubberized plastic material. As we move to the upper dash, you'll see that same rubber-like material that runs through there. We have more stitching details. You have cool looking vents, and then your lower panels, these are going to be slightly padded with more of that rubberized material, and we have piano black finish through the center section. Now this is a major thing that I do want to point out. This truck is approaching 6 figures, but despite that, it's definitely not going to have a cabin that's up to the standards of, say, the High Country Silverado. That's going to give you a lot more luxury finishes inside of the material with the materials in terms of leather and things like that. This is going to be more on the basic side with that rubberized texture and all that stuff I was pointing out. Now I do like you have the Silverado First Edition right there. And to fire up the truck, you actually don't have a push button start at all. You just put your foot on the brake. That will start up the systems. Or sometimes when you get inside, just as soon as you close the door, it will go ahead and fire up. So now we got that material discussion out of the way, let's get into technology, because that is also a big deviation from the traditional Silverado. As you can see, we've got a double screen layout. You have the main screen here with our gauge cluster is going to be 11 inches, so it's very large. It's fully reconfigurable. Right now you can see we've gone to the full screen map display, but you also have a lot of other views that you can go for if you prefer something simpler to look at visually. Now, accenting that information is going to be One of the best head-up displays that we have ever used, frankly. This is a 14-inch head-up display. It's absolutely massive. It has tons of information, especially while you are navigating. Now, as we pull back, we do have rain-sensing wipers. And taking a look at our steering wheel, the RST comes with a very nice flat-bottom steering wheel. You have the full leather covering with the cross-stitching and RST branding, as well as the black bow tie. The wheel itself is going to be power, tilt, and telescoping. We also do have steering wheel heating, of course. No power adjusting pedals, though, on this Silverado EV. Now, as we turn over here to our center console, let's take a look at the storage. So first of all, I'll open that up, and as you can see inside, we have a lot of donuts. That's because this is Car Confections, and we like to do the donut test to see how many donuts will fit inside a center console, and we'll figure out the volume. Now, as you can see, it's not fully filled up. That's because we have a limit of what we can actually travel with. We're up in the Detroit area today, and we brought about a dozen donuts here, and it doesn't even quite fill this up. So we could easily do at least 1.5 dozen, maybe even the full 2 dozen if you get creative with the structure. Now, there is a lot more storage than just that, though. That's the cool thing about this. So if I look at this area, you can actually grab this, push this back, and what this will do is reveal that entire pit right there. So as you can see, this goes down super deep. These two things are not connected to each other, but you have really just a massive amount of space right through there. Finally, you'd also have a area for your wireless phone charging pad. You have 2 USB-Cs, and the passenger also has a storage shelf in addition to storage on both sides of the console itself. Now, a lot of that is available because we have the column shift up here out of the way. Pull down for drive, go up the opposite direction for reverse. When you go into reverse, as you can see, we have the 360-degree HD surround view camera. You do have several different views that you can switch between as well, including a bed view so you can see what exactly is going on back there, and you can also line up a trailer easier. And then just press that P right on the end of the stalk for park. Now we'll talk a little bit about the climate controls as well. You might have noticed that they are integrated into the display, but thankfully Chevy has given you fully redundant physical controls down here at the bottom, so we can just twist these knobs here to make those quick temperature adjustments. We also have our buttons for our fan speed. Some of the more specific functions will actually still be inside of the display itself, including our heated and ventilated seats. So you do have both of those, of course, as you would expect on this top-end RST model. Now, let's talk about the display itself, though. Obviously, this is an absolutely massive display. You may have seen this in some of the other recent Chevy products, but it continues to be a 17.7 inch display. So it continues to be a 17.7 inch display. You have things integrated into the display itself, such as your volume knob. So I will talk about that. This RST comes with the Bose sound system. Let's give that a sample right now. Yeah, overall sound quality is quite nice. Certainly fills up the cabin very well. Now, taking a look back at the infotainment system, a couple important things to note. You do have a lot of your controls for the vehicle itself actually inside of this display, including your headlights. If you press that, that also gives you access to some of the other functionalities of the vehicle. Of course, one of the big news stories is the fact that you don't have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay on this system. Since it is a EV from General Motors, they have eliminated that across the board. But what they give you in place of that is built-in Google Apps. So this system allows you to have Google Maps built in, as well as things like your Play Store and your Google Assistant. And when you route using the built-in Google Maps, that's going to be able to, of course, route you to specific EV chargers and all the things you're going to need to successfully complete that trip that you're going on. Now, as we rise above here, we have the frameless auto-dimming mirror with the universal remotes. Flip that switch, and it is also a digital camera mirror. And then up top here, you'll notice that we have one very large piece of glass. So this is the only way that you can get the panoramic sunroof on the RST. There is no sunshade, but it does have a nice tint to it.
And by the way, I do want to point out that you do have fixed running boards. It's not going to be a power deploying running board of any kind. But let's go ahead and dive into the rear seat area, because you're probably noticing that this is a pretty impressive spot for the Silverado EV. There is so much space. Oh my goodness. So we do have official legroom and headroom figures, so let's dive into that. 44.3 inches of legroom, 38.7 inches of headroom. That legroom figure particularly places this as like one of the most spacious rear seats that money can buy in any vehicle segment, in any category. It is just an enormous amount of space. Now, I'm 5'9" for reference. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8", and you know it's a Car Confections review. We brought our ruler to get the knee measure. We're over a foot, guys. We've never had this problem before. Over a foot of knee space. I'd say at least about 13 inches or so of knee room. My feet can slide under the seat if I could reach it, but someone of my size can't reach it. And then as far as other things to point out, I do really just like how wide each rear seat is. Because it's a nice pickup truck, you have 3 good size seat bottoms. Then here in the center, we have cup holders up top. Here on this RST, we have 3-stage heated rear seats. We're also going to have standard vents. Additionally, we have a household power outlet, 2 USB-C ports, and a little storage cubby down below. Now, I do want to point out that these seats can fold down, 60-40 split folding. Of course, that's for the use of the midgate, which I talked about in the cargo area. And then over here on the door trim, let's talk about this. Pretty much hard touch materials from top to bottom, so I'm a little disappointed by that, but we do have a leatherette pad where our arm is going to rest. We have quite a lot of door storage, which is good enough to fit bottles and cans. But my section is not quite over yet, because there's a really cool feature that we haven't really showed you much yet. And that's this. We have a fully power frunk. So of course, different from a traditional gas Silverado, you're going to have all this space as additional storage. 10.7 cubic feet is going to be your maximum up here. As you can see, we fit all of our camera gear up here, no problems whatsoever. So it's a good amount of space. Store fast food, takeout, whatever, in this area to keep your cabin from stinking. Now, let's also get our measurements. So this is Car Confections after all. We like to measure things. And as far as overall frunk length, we're sitting at about 34 inches. Frunk width is sitting at 32 inches, so good amount of space. I guess I could also get height, and that's about 14 inches tall. Additionally, we do have a household power outlet in here to power things like that you may be using for tailgating. I do want to point out there's not a button to close it, so you actually have to go inside and hold the button to close the frunk.
All right, but now it's time to talk about what is powering this beast of a truck. Now, obviously, it does not have an engine under the hood. In its place, you've got that frunk system, but the actual powertrain is going to be comprised of a 205 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. That, paired with dual motor all-wheel drive system, is making 754 horsepower, which is good for a 0 to 60 in only 4.6 seconds.
Now, of course, there is also the WT that's available now that has slightly less horsepower than this fully loaded RST. But when it comes to range, this is probably the most important number for you guys. You can get up to 440 miles on a single charge with this RST version. Now, the WT can go up to 450 miles, but either one of those numbers are very impressive. It actually exceeds the vast majority of rivals by a significant margin, including the F-150 Lightning by well over 100 miles of range. So that's going to be a big deal for a lot of electric truck buyers. Now, as far as the charging network, that's also going to be very impressive. It's best-in-class charging speeds of 350 kilowatts, which means that you can charge 100 miles in as little as 10 minutes.
Now, a couple more interesting things about this truck. It does have a curb weight of about 8,700 pounds. So when I say big, it is certainly a big truck. And we also do have 2 cool features. So you do have the adaptive air suspension, which we mentioned on the exterior of the truck. We also have 4-wheel steering, so that's going to help this be hopefully more maneuverable when we take this out for a drive. So that's right, we do have a driving impressions embargo right now. We wanted to go ahead and show you guys this radical Silverado EV out in the sunlight, all the cool features while we could, but you're gonna have to wait just a little bit longer if you wanna see those drive impressions. You can see that date right there on the bottom of the screen, so make sure you go ahead and set your calendar so you can see just how much performance this truck can deliver.
And now let's go ahead and talk pricing for this Silverado EV. So we start around $66,900. That's for the base work truck model. Now, if you choose the RST, which is, those are the only two trim levels available right now. So the high-end version, that's starting at $94,900. excluding the $19.95 destination charge. So going to be a pretty pricey choice, that's for sure. It's going to cost more than a traditional gas Silverado 1500 fully loaded out, but you are getting a lot of unique features here. We will confirm with Chevrolet to see if this is qualified for any type of tax incentives, and we'll put that in a box right now. But overall, it's going to be a pretty pricey option. It is right in line with that of a fully loaded F-150 Lightning, though. If you're looking to buy the Chevy Silverado or any new vehicle, we would also encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, link is provided in our video description, and there's also a pinned comment at the top of this video. And guys, that's going to be it for our in-depth review of the all-new 2024 Chevy Silverado EV RST. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help get us invited to events like this, where we can come up to Detroit and sample out this latest Silverado EV. So by you subscribing, you really do play a very pivotal role in the amount of content that we're able to make. If you're already a fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.